Hi guys, TSB back at it again. Today I'm here to talk about Wonder Woman, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to structure this thing because this is not really a review. I will be definitely going into spoiler territory today with what I'm going to discuss, what I'm going to touch base on. So you are hereby warned. I welcome all discussion in the comments, so feel free to participate, feel free to add to the discussion, and please be civil. So, originally I was going to record a review in this time slot, but I went to see Wonder Woman today with my colleagues, and I found the movie very compelling. Excuse me. I always find that the best movies, in my opinion, are not necessarily the ones that are made with the best craftsmanship necessarily, but the ones that make you think. You might have the stupidest movie in the world, but if a movie touches you on some level, I believe it is a worthwhile piece of art, a worthwhile piece of entertainment that has its own place under the sun. Why I bring this up is DC gets a lot of flack, and I must preface this that I did not grow up with the characters. I am from a country that got the movies. We got all the Superman movies from way back when, and we got all the Batman movies, but we did not really get the Batman series. We didn't get the comics. The superhero things do not permeate our life as much as they do, and they are not really an everyday part of our lives as much as they are in the US. You don't see them everywhere necessarily. Lately, you have proliferation of US culture into our country, so you see everything a lot more. You have access to everything. Internet is a wonderful thing. With these things that it is easier to get stuff if you're interested. It is easier to partake in stories that grab you. The stories that have something to tell. Humane stories. And this is where I come from the perspective of DC versus Marvel. I don't really know I don't really intimately know the backstories of most of the characters, and especially the auxiliary characters from both sides of the fence are really introduced through movies to me and to many people here. So it is the essence of a character is something different than what people in the US might know. What I really want to say by this is when I go into a Marvel movie, my expectations are totally different. I expect not to have an introspective look into the human psyche or human soul or what it is to be a human. I don't necessarily want to have a deeper look into the morality of actions, whatnot. I mostly expect to have fun when I go into a Marvel movie. I don't necessarily expect to be intellectually engaged. I guess is the best way I can describe it. And when I go to see a DC movie, I expect something closer to my heart. Something that would make me think exactly like Wonder Woman did. I don't know why I blanked it out, but I saw the first trailer. I was trying to keep a radio silence after that, so I tried to blank out all the remaining trailers. I think I succeeded with that. I honestly thought that the movie will be set in World War II and not World War One. I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised. Why I'm saying that is World War II has a clearly defined villain throughout most of the world. So if you go to World War II, it is very easy to pull out Nazi Germany and Hitler and the atrocities committed by the regime, the Nazi regime. It's easy to point a finger, and everybody. I would expect, I would expect if we would go do a Marvel movie, I would expect Marvel to have something like that. But World War One was different. World War One doesn't have a clearly defined villain. Obviously, if you're on either side of the barricade, you can define that. Hey, okay, I'm from Germany, I'm from France, I'm from Belgium, I'm from the United Kingdom, I'm from the US, I'm from Canada, I'm from India. All of these nations actually, people from all these nations actually fought in the First World War, and they didn't really have a clear thing to point at. Well, of course, I don't want to go into this whole discussion. Yeah, there was propaganda on both sides. Yeah, there was the first shot that ignited the whole thing, but honestly, that was the result of complicated geopolitical situation at the time, and that's a discussion for a whole another time and whole other place. There's a great channel called The Great War that covers the First World War week by week, and I fully recommend you to check it out and to see how terrible that war actually was on a personal level. Circling all the way back to Wonder Woman, I was surprised that they actually showed the trenches. They showed how miserable, how bleak, how absolutely pointless the whole endeavor was. When they were going to the front line on the Western Front, you saw all the wounded, you saw all the families, and at that point it was absolutely irrelevant whether they were German, Belgian, French. It was irrelevant, absolutely. Everyone was suffering, and for what? You can perfectly see it by the reaction of Wonder Woman, of Diane. We'll go with the shorter form. When she saw it for the first time, that should be your natural reaction to the horror. It is not normal to, I guess the whole point of the movie, everything that it was trying to say is that it's what is the net result when you take someone else's life when you were wronged. What is the whole point of actually winning the war under those circumstances? I mean, sure, there are the obvious things you can say. I'm fighting for my country. I'm trying to save this piece of land. But in that instant, when you are a British private on a French soil, being killed by a German soldier who doesn't want to be there any more than you want to be there, what is the point of all that? To gain a trench line? To gain 2 trench lines? Germans had, not just the Germans, but both sides really had systems of trenches. They could fall back. They could lose a trench line, fall back to the second one, fall back to the third one. They were dogging all the time. What then? You didn't have supply lines. They can shell you to high heaven from there. What if the weather changed? What if the trench system was flooded? What if it was damaged beyond what you could feasibly repair? Then you would retreat? How would you exactly justify on a personal level, on a humane level, that what you do is right and what you do is not wrong? Can you even do that? This point is hammered home in the final scene after the bad guy of the movie was defeated, when the German soldiers have actually really no intention of doing anything else. I mean, of course, you have Diane there in the middle, but all of them are really happy that the fighting is over and none of them want anything to do with this, and they would be just happy to just go home and just screw this whole thing. And I found it very interesting that throughout the three mainline DC movies from Man of Steel, so Batman v Superman and this movie, not counting Suicide Squad to that, are trying to show us that there is a better way. That there can be, and for most of us there has to be, a trigger that would trigger our humanity, that would find our humanity from all that muck that's built on top of that, through our daily lives, through all the toxicity we hear in the news, social media, on YouTube comments, Twitter. Just buried deep underneath that. A lot of people laughed at Martha from Batman v Superman, and I found it actually genius. I mean, I know that it's anecdotal, most that they share, but that Batman and Superman, his mother's name is the same. But I believe that that's the exact point, that was by accident. That was by accident that Superman invoked that movie, the most basic definition of what it is to be, what reminds you of your humanity, is your mother. It has to be. It's the person who gave you your basic moral compass. And it was fitting that in this movie, Diane again had to witness the heroic sacrifice, had to call out the name, so that she can harness her power of humanity, to really put her to the next level, shifting gear 6. Just really stand up to a powerful foe. Have a person that showed the loss of all of her humanity, and still say that my humanity means that this person lives. by killing this person, I will solve nothing. I will not be better than this person. What I definitely appreciated was the woman's touch in this movie, that you could see for the big things. Definitely that her shock, the way the actors were directed to convey base human reactions, humane human reactions, was very nicely done. And also some other scenes where I would suspect that a human director would use a line or two of dialogue, like the scene where Steve came up to her room and they exchanged that. There was like whole lines of dialogue there, and how he closed the door and took the step, and how they kissed. I'm not sure whether I know what director that would be able to, male director that would be able to do the same thing. And it was very much appreciated. Now overall, I don't really want to get into the review kinda look at the whole thing. Just maybe a couple of notes. I mean, this is not really to be intended to be a review. I mean, I found because again, I believe that it is more important to think about these things and to start a conversation. Even if you do it for just a minute, even if you write just one comment on this YouTube video or wherever, it doesn't really matter. If you talk with your coworker near a water cooler, that's perfectly fine. Just start a discussion. Talk about it. Think about it. Think about everything you hear, everything you see. Try to contextualize it. On my way home, I was thinking about this personal level of how we treat people and how difficult it is to perceive the entirety of human society as opposed to the small selection of people who you can call friends, and how different it would be and difficult to see everyone as a part of the other set, as a part of your friend group or acquaintance group. Because I firmly believe that independently of your background, independently of your country of origin, of your religion, of your political views, there is a different level of acceptance of ideas, of just the mere fact of being in a group of your friends, acquaintances, and I'm in the same. I mean, I'm not trying to preach. I mean, it sounds preachy as hell. I can perceive that, but I mean, I'm not saying that I'm exempt from this problem. I do the same thing. It is difficult to put yourself into someone else's shoes. It is difficult to perceive someone on the television, someone in the news, as a person, same as you, that might have the same problems, that may go home and to a broken marriage. You might have a prime minister that goes home and there's nothing there for him. Might have had a terrible upbringing. He was always alone. It's very difficult to imagine that. It's very exhausting to imagine that. Depending on the amount of people you interact, just think about the amount of people you interact with each day. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to talk to them. Think about the people you meet when you go to buy your groceries. Think about the people you meet when you go to the post office. Think about the amount of people you meet on the highway when you go to work, when you go to pick up your kid, when you go to visit your parents. You don't necessarily have to interact with everybody, but they are there. They might have a bad day. You might be the best person in the world and just have a shitty day. It happens to all of us. And after all this thinking, I came back to the realization that, I don't know, I might get it engraved, but just 4 simple lines. You are not better than me. I am not better than you. You are worse than me. I am worse than you. Think about what it would mean for the whole world if everybody would think like that. Because I honestly believe that today, most of at least the Western Hemisphere, I'm not really knowledgeable about the Eastern and the, well, pretty much Southern Hemisphere either. I'm not really knowledgeable about those, so I'm not really sure how people there think. But I think in the Western Hemisphere, most people would identify with the fact that they believe that they are right in what they do. This is really selfish. And people saw that in the First World War. People saw that at the end of the day, in the trenches, no one was better than the other one. No one soldier on one side was better than the other one. No one was worse than the other one. And I found this philosophy as a good one to live by. And I'm really grateful for this movie, that it made me think about it. If you have not seen it, do see it. If not for anything else, only for this. I'm not saying that it's a perfect movie. It has its flaws. The pacing is not great, I would argue. The scene selection, scene transitions, jarring. We are transitioning from a romantic comedy to a war movie into a superhero action movie. That doesn't really matter though, because the movie is special by at least this thing. Makes you think. And I'm grateful that this movie is filmed for a wider audience. There are a lot of movies that make you think, but those movies won't be seen by as many people. The reason is that we don't want to be sad, or we don't want to be engaged that much. We are very tired most of the day. It's perfectly fine if you are tired. But if a movie that is made for a wider audience make you think, and I have nothing to complain about. This was a little bit more heavy than what I would like to usually do, but I really felt compelled to talk about it. And I usually do it within the circle of my friends, so this was somewhat more intimate as well. And I'm actually thankful for it that, yeah, you found time for hear my opinion, and I would be very happy to take a look at yours down in the comments. This is TSB signing out. Bye.